They recently found a mummy that was covered with chocolate and nuts. They think it was Ferrero Rocher. Okay, so tonkatsu is typically cooked in a deep fryer. But since I don't have a deep fryer, I got rid of that a long time ago, I just use the frying pan method. It uses less oil and seems to work just fine. Either way, it's still going to cook very quickly. The longest part of this process is getting the pork breaded. So let's jump right into it, shall we? Okay, so as you can see, I spent less than $6 and I have 6 pork cutlets here. So you want the pork loin thin chops. Otherwise you're going to have to fillet them, make them thin. All right, let's get started. Okay, so the first thing we're going to have to do with this pork is tenderize it. Now trust me, I washed my hands. These are clean. Why bother putting that in the video, right? So there's several ways you can do this. You can do the psycho method. Ah! Yeah. Whoops. All right. So that's one way. Or if you have one of those mallets, you could use that. That'll work just fine. Okay, so method 1 is with the fork. My preferred method is to do it this way. Look at that, quick and easy. But whichever method you want to use, just have fun. So there are certain things you're going to need. One is you're going to need some flour. Use whatever kind of flour you want, whether it's gluten-free, coconut flour, or just all-purpose flour like I have here. Next, some eggs. Now you're going to have to scramble these eggs. You can, if you don't like beating them with one of these little whisk things or with a fork, then you can always just put them in a blender. Yeah, sounds pretty intense. And finally, panko. All right, now that we have the meat tenderized, we're going to cover it with flour, put it into the egg mixture. Please don't milk it down. That's terrible. You may as well just use milk. Okay, and then cover it with panko. And I do have a plate here. We're going to stack all the breaded pork cutlets right there. All right, so very simple process. I'm going to take this just like that into the eggs, get it nicely coated, and into our breadcrumbs. There we go. Now you might think, well, that didn't take too long, right? I mean, that's one right there. Now, if you're cooking for a family though, right, you could be doing a couple dozen of these, maybe even more. So, yeah, it can take a while. And it's no fun when it takes too long. Okay, so, here we go. Same simple process. We're just going to get it nicely coated. Press that breadcrumb right onto it so that it kind of stays there. 2 down, look at that. Whoa, we're cooking with gas. Well, actually it's electric, but you know, it's just an expression. Okay, the oil's hot, we're ready to roll, so let's start putting these in here. Alright, so let's take these out. If you have a wire straining rack, I highly recommend you use it. I don't. I could have rigged something up to do that, but I'm not going to bother. Maybe I should call this cooking with lazy chef. Alright, so, okay. Let those cook and we'll be back with the finished product. And there you have it. Homemade tonkatsu. Now, like I said, I'm going to cut it open so you can see it's cooked all the way through, even though it didn't take long to cook on the stove. I have rice with some chazake nori on it. It's just a seasoning. I like green beans. I don't know, whatever vegetable works for you. And also I have some tonkatsu sauce on. Okay, my real camera ran out of battery power, but I just wanted to show you the pork is cooked all the way through. You see, you keep the pork at a quarter of an inch or less. It really doesn't take long to cook it all. Anyway, gonna enjoy this lunch now. Have a great day. Cheers. Before you begin preheating your oven, please check to make sure it is empty. You don't want to find something in there after the fact. Okay, don't know about your oven, but mine's very simple. Just press bake, and then I can go up to 425, oops, and just let it preheat. All right, I have a sweet potato that I cut up. Let me zoom in a little bit here. Okay, all I did so far is peeled and chopped up a sweet potato. Just going to add a little bit of oil, olive oil. I was going to use coconut oil, but for whatever reason I can't find my bottle of coconut oil this morning. You ever have that issue? Misplaced stuff. How can you misplace stuff in the kitchen? It happens somehow. All right. Okay. Hold on. Got one piece that's a little huge right now. Just cut that in half. Any pieces that are too big, because I want these to bake fairly evenly. All right, so olive oil. I'm going to use some Celtic salt. You can use Himalayan salt if you'd like. I don't recommend you use regular Morton table salt or anything like that, because they don't have the other minerals and it's not very healthy. All right, I'm going to add some garlic powder. And just because I like it, I like to have some cayenne pepper. Of course, you can leave it out if you don't like to make it very hot. I'm going to add paprika. And some turmeric. And then a little bit of ginger. Okay, so that's pretty much all that goes in there. Stir it around, try to get these seasonings evenly distributed as much as possible. Oops, I would suggest actually, and I should have done it that way, just to mix all the dry ingredients together so that they're evenly mixed, and then just sprinkle it all over everything. You know, kind of late for that right now. So, gonna just do it this way, and once you get it mixed together, it just goes into the oven, 425 degrees, for about 30-35 minutes. Well, I managed to burn it a little bit. However, it is well seasoned and it still tastes great. Give it a go, and I know you'll do better than I did. Now, when it comes to anything that's Star Trek themed, I love the idea already. So anyway, I know it's non-speaking, but if you select me for this role, I will definitely make it so. Grab your favorite beverage and get yourself comfortable. It's Webby Story Time. Hi, Why Not Webby fans. Welcome to Story Time. Today I'm going to tell you about how I got into acting twice. It all started back in 1976 when I got involved with drama in high school. How'd that come about? Well, I got to take you all the way back to the 75-76 school year, where I was a freshman at the Maunalua High School. Now, after my freshman year, I tried out for the football team, was assigned to the JV as a tight end receiver. So I spent the entire summer working out, practicing, and learning all the plays and everything else. So that was my summer. A lot of exhaustion, right? A lot of effort, a lot of blood, sweat, and tears. Anyway, only to find that just before the next school year started, my family was moving to Mililani. And if I remember right, we actually moved there, or physically moved there 1 week before the school year started. I was not a happy camper. Are campers ever really happy though? I have to ask that question. That's a tangent though. Let's get back to the subject. So you might think, well, you've moved your entire life from place to place and changing schools all the time, so what's the big deal, right? Was it just because it was high school? Well, that was part of it, but no. Here's the deal, okay? As one of my software engineering friends used to say, hey, Kevin, this is the deal. Cracked me up. Anyway, these schools were actually the two newest in the state of Hawaii at the time, and on the island of Oahu. And did I say Oahu? That's so on the island of Oahu, right? Yeah, Kamaina talk. Okay, so there were the two newest schools on the island, and they were rivals. We had a thing back then called the M&M Classic. I heard it doesn't exist anymore. Oh, Unity, why, right? It was a fun competition. So anyway, what was that? Where was I on this? Oh, yeah. So roughly a week before the school year started, my family moved to Mililani Town. I still had loyalty to Maunalua, and so I was angry, and I refused to play for Mililani. So there was a void. I didn't want to just go to school. I was always the kind of person who was involved in sports of some sort. I was on the taekwondo team, the wrestling team at Maunalua. Mililani didn't have a taekwondo team. I believe we had a wrestling team. I didn't feel like doing that anymore. So no football. What do I do now, right? That's where drama came in. But before I continue with that, let me just say this for the record. It was within the first year at Mililani that I actually liked that school better. So sorry for my family members who are Maunalua grads. You know, I mean, for you, it was that's your alumni, right? You're the alumni. Wait, however that goes. For me, it was just my first year of high school. So anyway, yeah, it's all good, right? So I got involved with drama. Yeah, well, you might wonder, well, why did you get involved with drama? Why, where'd that come from, right? Because were you ever in drama before? And yes, I was. My one and only experience in acting prior to high school was, when was that? Oh, overseas in Chofu, Japan, when I was a sixth grader. I was drafted into a play that I didn't want to be a part of. And it was so poorly done. It was, I mean, I was embarrassed being on that in front of people acting that one out. It was terrible. Oh, gosh. It gave me such a terrible image of what acting and drama was. They said, don't want to be a part of that. But anyway, I get to this point in life where the thing that had consumed me throughout the summer was gone, and what was I going to replace it with, right? Well, it was suggested to me that it may be therapeutic. Why is that? Well, because just a year before, was it before? Anyway, back in 1975, check my notes. Memory. Time for ginkgo biloba, right? That's what my family tells me. Okay, it was September of 1974. One of the most tragic events in my life took place. And it was when I lost my mother. She passed away. So I had a hard time with that, and I kind of, there was a blockage within my soul. I just couldn't express positive emotions very well or at all anymore. Negative things like anger and things like that, yeah, they came out very fine, very easily, and it was pretty dominant. And so it was suggested maybe drama would be good for me. I didn't really understand the reasoning for that at the time, but it's, hindsight looking back on it, I say, yeah, that was a smart move. Because in getting involved with drama, the drama class that we had, I learned how to express emotions again. Something that it felt like it was physically stuck right there, and learning to project it and mimic the physical reactions and emotions, it brought it out and gave me some release there. And I ended up loving acting, and especially once I got past that point and going up for small roles initially, background acting on stage, seeing the more seasoned upperclassmen performing on stage. That was pretty awesome. And it was a nice experience. And then later on came in my second year, so my junior year at Mililani, I had started to compete in statewide competitions. I competed for dramatic arts, group scenes, pantomime, comedy, and monologues. And this was statewide between all the high schools. We all, went to different schools and competed. And I ended up getting superior ratings pretty much every time I went up there. I was doing really good. I loved it. And so I said, you know what? What's next? What else is there, right? And I ended up doing a commercial for one of the savings and loans in Hawaii, and then also for I had a part as an extra in the remake of From Here to Eternity in 1979 by Columbia Pictures. That was a lot of fun. And I said, wow, I really like this. But then life happens, you graduate from high school. Acting just kind of went away, but of course the love for acting never stopped. So there were years later when I became a Christian in November of '89, I started, of course, attending church regularly. And it was a few years after that I started to use my acting skills of writing, directing, and acting, put it to use in the church. And I did a couple of major Easter productions, which we call resurrection plays, right? And for churches I was in, and then also did skits, put together little skits for Sunday school promotion, things like that. But yeah, but as far as acting professionally, no, it didn't happen. Not until late 2019 when I was in Lexington, Kentucky. A job I was hired for fell through. Not going to mention what it was for. My family knows. So I was kind of left working at Panera Bread and saying, what am I going to do? Because I only transferred up to Kentucky with that job as a temporary income source, really. Didn't intend for it to go on for years. So I decided, hey, you know what? I have the time on my hands. I still have this love for acting, so I'm going to see what I can do with it. So I started pursuing it again. And yeah, it's been fun. I still have some scripts I have fully ready to go that I wrote, and I really would like those feature films and short films done. So someday, yeah, you know who you are. I'm going to contact you again because, we need to get together and work on these. Anyway, I met a bunch of really good actors and crew members and directors, producers, people I really enjoyed working with. And you know who you are. So don't make me call you all out and name everybody, because I know, the brain, right? Going to forget a few names and somebody's going to get mad. It's just the way it is. Hey, I'm in my 60s. Cut me some slack, Jack. Okay, so yeah. But I do want to get those done sometime. And so that's how I ended up in acting the second time. And it's something I am not finished with. There's some priorities I have right now, which kind of holding me back on that. But I will get there because it is not out of my blood. Well, that's a wrap for today. I hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you on the next one.